Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me in another video. So around this probably exact same time last year, there was this trend floating around on social media, or like this movement, whatever you want to call it, but it was this trend of people posting about underconsumption-core on TikTok, the things that they did that were described as underconsumption. I actually talked about that in a video last year. Before that, there was this trend around de-influencing. Before that, even on like YouTube, no buy, low buy movements, other movements like Project Pan, anti-hauls, Recession-Core, people listing off recession indicators. It's like we're living in a time where on social media, what is projected is luxury consumption to the max. And then on the other side, it's a lot of economic anxiety. And it's just this tension between seeing one thing and then seeing another thing. But now in 2025, one of the things that we are seeing in 2025, there's been this recent movement called Frugal Chic.
Let's talk minimalism for non-minimalists, and what I mean by that is I'm not trying to turn you into a minimalist. I don't think that's a realistic situation for everybody, but I think there are a lot of tips and tricks that you can take from a minimalist philosophy that will save you a lot of time, stress, and money, and allow you to make decisions quicker and stop overconsumption, etc. So let's go. First, I want to talk about the buy it nice or buy it twice philosophy because I have some opinions. I think this is a philosophy that everybody should be taking into consideration when it comes to things that they're going to have long term, like a bed, or choosing any home decor that you're going to have long term, or something even like a coffee machine, just things that you can see yourself having for years. However, I do not think this philosophy necessarily needs to apply to everything that you purchase. For example, short-term things like skincare that you're going to use over and over and over again. If there's something that's at a cheaper price that works just as well as a more expensive price that you know you're going to have to buy again, you don't necessarily need to buy it nice because you're going to have to buy it twice.
I love the lifestyle of the frugal chic, the term coined by Mia. And here are some things that I do to be frugally chic myself.
The frugal chic. Who is she? On the surface, she appears very luxurious. Underneath it all, she is very savvy about her money. So these are 5 things that characterize the frugal chic. Number 1, she can't say no to a freebie. Whether it's a pop-up where she can get free makeup or an event where there's free food, she's there. Her friends are so confused about how she never buys skincare or makeup, but she gets so much of it for free. She's not even an influencer, she just has her ways. Number 2, the frugal chic is always using some kind of cashback or discount. People are like, it's literally only a few pounds, why do you care? But in her mind, she knows that this really adds up.
And I think on an individual level, for some people, this will definitely be helpful. Some of the examples of what is described as frugal chic, or what was previously maybe described as under-consumption-core behaviors. But if we think about like pre-TikTok, pre-social media, these types of behaviors used to be just what a lot of people did, like wearing your clothes on repeat, having something that you wore, like items that you cherished and loved, using up a product until it's completely finished. I think TikTok, or even just fast fashion, has like gradually led up to this period of instant gratification. People just didn't have the money or the means to buy these things. Everything is accessible with the click of a button. Again, it's also being sold to us on these types of platforms like TikTok, YouTube, etc. But a lot of these, the lists of things that I'm seeing, and maybe I'm really aging myself here, but everyday things that people used to do is now deemed as frugal. One thing that I find interesting is, even if I just think about things that I do on a regular basis, I would never really call this frugal, but I'm sure you could. If I'm in the city alone, just because I'm somebody who actually really enjoys walking, I learned that that is a frugal chic thing to do if you walk in the city as opposed to take transportation. To another frugal chic type of behavior, to sell clothes and fashion items. It's a lot easier than I think it used to be. Like, there's so many platforms. People buy secondhand goods a lot more now. I'm definitely somebody who likes to let go of clothing and fashion items that no longer serve me. I don't buy clothes or bags with the intention of resale. I think about my old Celine coat that I purchased for like $250, something like that. I could have gotten something very similar from Zara. Of course, it would be newer, but the old Celine is made with more premium materials. It is also something that if I decide to part ways with, it will have a second life after me. Even if I think about somebody like Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, who is this definition of 90s chic, what she used to do, this was before she was a Kennedy, but she used to buy used clothes. She used to buy a lot of things secondhand, and she was very particular, and she would spend a lot of time searching searching for like the perfect item, she would also buy her shoes on sale. And even if the shoes were too small, she would actually give her shoes to her roommate who had slightly smaller feet than her to break them in so that she could eventually wear them. And then she became a Kennedy, could buy all the Manolo Blahnik shoes she wanted. In theory, this kind of behavior is frugal chic, although I wouldn't limit that to her. Like, I don't think her style is frugal chic, but I do think one thing that is important to me is having things that express my values, and values not as just something entirely monetary. And if I buy fashion, I want to buy things that are well made, that will last. I want to be able to buy things that I can wear for a very long time. I think of Vivienne Westwood, buy less, choose well, make it last. And then on the flip side, I also think there are areas where I'm not what would be described as frugal chic. I think depending on who you speak to, if I look into my closet and I look at 34 handbags, that is an excessive amount. That is not a normal amount. That is not an amount that the average person should need to have, but something that I'm enthusiastic about. Even some handbag collectors might feel that is too small of a collection, but that's the number that works for me. But when I think about my fashion, it is quite minimal, and I wear a lot of the same things over again. I will wear the same old Celine coat that I bought secondhand for $250 over and over and over again. But I will also allow myself to have a nice bag, and that is my indulgence. That's just a personal choice that I'm making. Some people will choose to maybe spend hundreds of dollars every 6 weeks going to the salon, or some people spend hundreds of dollars going to the club and getting fancy drinks. Everyone has a thing that they enjoy. I know what mine is. Of course, I have this YouTube channel. I feel so grateful that I am able to express this interest with a lot of people. This is the thing that I allow myself to enjoy, and everybody has a thing at which they enjoy. And I think about my bags in my collection. Some of these bags I've had since I was 18 years old. I'm now 34 years old, and even within that, I have stylistic preferences. I'm not just going to buy every single handbag I see. I do exercise restraint, but I do admire people that are pure minimalists that maybe have like 1, 2, or 3 bags. I know that's not me, and I know this is probably crazy to most people. Anyways, I'm going on a long tangent here. Going back to the term frugal chic, there are definitely things I resonate with, but I also find it fascinating how mindful spending is just constantly something that is getting rebranded. Again, last year it was Underconsumption-Core. These think pieces emerge. Some will praise it, some will criticize it, and I do think there is valid criticism around this type of content. I think there is a privilege in being able to choose to consume like this. Some people have to truly live a frugal way out of necessity, being frugal in terms of buying essentials versus frugal chic way of being sure to use the last of your Hermes lipstick before you buy another. When we hear these terms like frugal chic or Underconsumption-Core, it's something that can feel a little tone deaf if we think about, everything else that's going on in the world. I will say, when I see these videos of these young women, I would say a lot of young women, I don't think they're here to solve the issues of poverty or even like sustainability, even though there is sort of like language of sustainability often used. It's just, I think, a way in which a lot of young people are able to romanticize their lives in a way where I think, again, we live in this very difficult time, and I'm really trying to like dance around this because I just don't want to open up a can of worms. But people do want to be able to romanticize their lives. They want to be able to romanticize their everyday. But I can also see how, from like an outsider's perspective, or like how these kinds of terms might feel problematic. Another point I also just want to make is money does not equal style. When I look at early pictures of somebody like Carolyn Bessette Kennedy when she was working at Calvin Klein, I think she looks incredibly stylish. She had to be a little bit more discerning with her choices. That's the whole thing about frugal chic. It's about a mindful spending attitude met with an appreciation for luxury or kind of a chic aesthetic, which again also seems like a contradiction, but you're allowing yourself to indulge in luxury good with intention, mindfulness, etc. I think what's very different about this era we are in, age of TikTok, social media, these labels have become very prevalent, and being able to have sort of an SEO friendly identity, if you want to build a following, it's a way in which to build an online identity and even an online community where people can find relatability. Being able to convey an identity that is not purely committed to consumption or is about lessening consumption is definitely appealing, and also a backlash to the excessive consumerism we've been been seeing on social media. But I think this idea of like frugal chic, while it has like emerged on TikTok, like I think this phenomenon has existed for a very long time. Even if we think about like the Great Depression, and of course this has been something that has existed before that, but it was a period of economic hardship, so it actually forced a lot of style innovation. There were these quote make do and mend campaigns which encouraged restyling of old garments. Women learned to sew dresses from flour sacks or adapt to menswear. It's just how to respond to the time. The art of appealing stylish despite scarcity. Even if I just think about handbags, right? Like if we think about the Gucci bamboo top handle, that bag was created from that era of resourcefulness. I think what I ultimately want to emphasize here is before TikTok, before fast fashion, before excessive hauls, these types of behaviors were how people participated in fashion. Frugal chic may seem like a new wave after Underconsumption-Core, Recession-Core, but I just think it's a continual response to the extreme consumerism we continue to see. Of course, younger generations are feeling, I think, anxious about the future. I think there are going to be a lot of landfills, a lot of fast fashion and environmental impact. All of this also disproportionately affects the global south. And there is absolutely a valid critique in terms of who has the privilege of engaging in this aesthetic. Just as people were critical of the online performance of Underconsumption-Core, this time this movement feels like it's undergone a new rebrand with an undertone of luxury, or sort of this appeal to something that feels luxurious. But I do think while on an individual level, for some people, this will definitely be helpful. Some people will definitely resonate with this. And some of these examples of what is described as frugal chic or maybe Underconsumption-Core, pre-TikTok, pre-social media, a lot of these types of behaviors were how people consumed fashion at a slower rate or did not consume fashion as much. Whether it be you're wearing your clothes on repeat or you're using up a product until it's completely finished. And yes, it may not have this like perfectly aesthetic look. Yes, it may not feed the algorithm. This is just how people behaved. And whenever I see these waves happen, I think, again, a rightful critique of these types of movements, but I also think there is sort of a sigh of relief people feel like, even if you don't align with frugal chic, maybe you're more like frugal funky or frugal and colorful. I don't think this idea of consuming this way has to be limited to chic style or a luxurious style or whatever. So yeah, I would say in some ways I'm like this, in other ways I'm probably not, but I think ultimately for me it's about finding what is true to me, true to my style, true to my lifestyle. And I think it is absolutely great that people, they want to go out and they want to have life experiences or they want to go to the salon. Like, people shouldn't feel shamed for that. And I don't think that's what this movement is doing. It's about being very considerate, very mindful. But I also think what is being expressed here is this wanting to appreciate, normalize, or even romanticize doing things that you enjoy and acknowledging that many of these things don't actually have a cost and are very enjoyable, be it going to a local art gallery, taking your library book to the beach, going to a public garden, walking through the city and enjoying the changing periods of architecture. But also, if you have a full day ahead of you and you want to drive or you want to take transportation, do that too. Go out and socialize and get your hair done. And for me, if I like a nice bag, I'm going to indulge in it. I also understand that that's like a ridiculous thing to want to enjoy. Even just when looking at this app, looking at a lot of the young women that are very enthusiastic about this, I can see how it can be very helpful when it feels like everything that is being promoted requires some kind of consumption, some kind of affiliate link. There's an obvious incentive and a whole machine that is geared towards young women, especially in their 20s, to consume and consume, to feel insecure and to feel like you can never really catch up. So I definitely think this will resonate with some people, but I also think this is an idea that could absolutely expand to maybe if you have a different aesthetic that isn't chic or a lifestyle that isn't chic. I think what it is trying to do is remind us that style and being mindful aren't mutually exclusive. It asks us to consider our choices and cherish what we have and engage with fashion thoughtfully. I can see how something like this will definitely resonate with a lot of people. But I will also say I think this is a cycle that is going to continue. And it's because maybe it's something that can sometimes feel performative or something that can feel like class cosplay, aestheticizing economic hardship. A lot of the conversation feels quite performative, even if it's not. Unless there is sort of a wave of something that attempts to at least address the critique, we're just going to get the same cycle, while, trends emerge, people praise it, people criticize it, trend fades, new label emerges. If these types of underconsumption ideas want to stick, it has to be something more than a hashtag. It has to be shift from being just about the aesthetic of restraint to actually engaging with the systems of overproduction, waste, supply chains that make restraint necessary in the first place. And I think that's where it moves from like a cute TikTok label to something with lasting cultural value. Anyways, guys, that's my video for today. Thank you so much for joining me in another one, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.